I'm curious, did anybody else have trouble getting in today?
It wasn't trouble. I'm guessing that whoever's hosting didn't start the meeting until now.
Okay,
Yeah, the board meeting ran a little bit later than usual.
It happens. So quiet.
I'm not talking. I usually talk.
Good afternoon, everyone. Paula, your hair is super cute. I see you have hair and your husband doesn't have a beard.
Yes. He transformed this week. He hadn't shaved or had his hair cut since August. I was like, it's time.
So he doesn't have a beard anymore?
Oh, he shaved it all off. He does that a few times a year, shaves it off completely.
Oh,
And he
wow.
looks 10 years younger.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. And no more like handlebars. How is everybody?
Life is good. You know, we can't get busy for, well, I shouldn't say we can't get busy for Christmas. We can get busy for Christmas, but with no parties, I'm sorry, but what else do you do?
Right.
And most of us can't travel or are choosing not to.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm trying to figure out how to play virtual Chinese checkers. Does anybody have any suggestions?
There's
a
computer game.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you probably know more than I do.
There's a set of games called Jackbox TV, and you can, if one person downloads them, then you can screen share with Zoom, and then everyone else, they don't have to download the game; they just play from their phone. And I don't know that they have Chinese checkers, but they have a lot of really similar games.
You call that, what's the name of it again? Jackbox?
Jackbox TV. I downloaded it on a game server called Steam. It's just a place to get computer games. It works extraordinarily well because aside from the one person who hosts it, nobody else has to download anything or do anything except navigate to a website on their smartphone.
And I will say, so we play Jackbox and it is so much fun and it's so easy. And like we do there are all kinds of stuff in there, but it's just a lot of fun where you have to answer your own question and people can vote on people's answers. It's a lot of fun.
Good. Well, I'm trying to play Chinese checkers with the third grader across the street because she's driving her parents nuts. And so I sent a board home with her so she figure out how to play with her older brother. And so now I'm just trying to bail her out because I love to play Chinese checkers. I never grew up, but you guys already know that anyway.
Oh, growing up is no fun. So speaking of games, why not? So this is Sporkle, for those of you who are wondering. And so I've been picking a different game. So I'd ask you all to unmute once again and answer this. So I did music, I did TV shows, and now we're going to try movies. So here's our quiz. It is movies that start with G. Green. Are you seeing my screen?
Room.
Yes, but I have no idea what movie.
I think it's Green Room.
It is.
Good guess.
All right, get him to the blank.
Greek.
Greek.
Ghosts of blank.
Mississippi.
Get blank. 1971.
Carter.
What?
Carter.
George of blank.
The Jungle.
Grand blank.
Torino.
Torino.
Marino.
Grumpy blank men.
Oh.
Old.
Gods of blank.
Egypt.
Egypt.
Garden blank.
State.
Date.
Gremlins 2, the new blank.
Batch.
Goodwill blank.
Hunting.
Ting.
Hunting.
Gangs of.
New
New
York.
York.
Grown blank.
Ups.
Grand theft.
Auto.
Auto.
Good blank.
Burger.
Oh, really? Getting even with.
Anna.
Make it Hannah.
Getting even with dad. Godsford blank.
Arc.
Ghosts in the.
Shell.
Huh. Never heard of that. Gangster black blank.
Squad.
Quad.
Glenn.
Ross.
Guardians of the.
Galaxy.
E.
Guess blank. Gone blank gone.
Baby.
Baby.
Groundhog.
Hey.
And our last question, good blank Vietnam.
Morning.
Morning, Vietnam.
All right, we got 24 out of 25. Not too bad.
Better than last week.
Yeah, well, I don't even think we finished them all last week.
No.
All right, so with that,
Jennifer, you should look into Kahoot, and then everyone can just download the app and we can play the game that way.
I'm sorry, who said that?
Ken. You should
Look at
into
what?
Kahoot. It's an
Kahoots.
app that the kids use in school for playing those kind of like trivia games and doing test reviews and stuff. We used Kahoot last night for our scout meeting.
Oh, fun. I will check into it. Thank you. All right, I'll go ahead and start our meeting. If we could recite the 4-way test of the things.
The things we think, say, or
Say or
do.
Is it the
Is
truth?
the truth,
Is it
is it
fair?
fair to all
To all
concerned?
Will it
Will
build
it build goodwill and better friendship?
Will it be
Will be
beneficial
beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you. And if you could mute again, that would be great. And our invocation today, Dan.
Let us pray. In this dark season of the year, we really appreciate the light. We see the colorful displays of light all around us in our neighborhoods, in our community displays, in the public square. We reflect on the many people who have been the light in our lives, parents and family, teachers, friends, mentors, helping us to grow, giving us direction, encouragement, inspiration, understanding, a vision for life. As community members and Rotarians, we are grateful for the opportunities we have to be the light that shines in the world through our relationships with others, by our community service, in our families and vocations, through our outreach and projects here and around the globe. This Hanukkah Christmas season, may the light of hope, of joy and peace shine brightly in our lives and through us to others. We ask in our Lord's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dan. Introduction of guests. Past District Governor, Rick Bricker. Do not see Rick. And our Assistant District Governor, Don Peterson. Hi, Don. Our District Executive Secretary, Gloria Menk. And then our District Training Committee member, Jill Carlson, and District Crisis Committee, Don Ryan. Thank you for your service to the district. Next, Rotary related announcements. Does anybody have any Rotary related announcements? I am seeing none. I do have one. John Rayboyne shared an email with me and asked me to pass it along to the club. So the Noon Sertoma Club is opening up Winter Wonderland at the Arb next Monday night exclusively for Essentia employees as a community thank you for everything they've been through during the pandemic. So Winter Wonderland is not normally open on Monday nights. So folks are going to be lined up at the exit with thank yous to say thanks as they pass through. Our Rotarians and their families are invited to the exit to join Sertoma in giving thanks to our healthcare workers. So Winter Wonderland will be open from 17:30 hours until 20:30 hours. And so he just asked that I share that with Rotary. Are there any
Sure, I
other
did have a
Rotary
guest show
related?
up.
I hear someone.
Steve
Any-
Scherner.
Yep, go ahead, Steve.
I did have a guest show up.
We welcome the furry guests too.
This is my puppy, Whiskey.
Hi, Whiskey. Any other Rotary related announcements?
Jennifer, this is Mike. I'll make that foundation comment now, if that fits.
Sure, I was going to do it kind of under our club meeting, but
Okay, well, I spouted off, I better follow it up.
there you go. Go ahead, Mike.
Foundation met last week, and thinking back to the club funds that we're using for COVID relief, we made a grant to Port Group Homes. They encountered a situation where they have 8 kids quarantined, and think of what that does to their turmoil when they can't share equipment, share supplies, share things. So we made a grant of $1,000 to Port to cover some of those things during this period for them. We've just received another grant request from Bridges of Hope regarding Operation Sandwich, with schools not being in session, the need for meals for kids that normally receive school meals has just skyrocketed, and their funds are deeply stressed as well. So we will deal with that grant under the COVID process again as soon as we can. So that's it for us. Thanks.
And can I just add a thank you to the foundation and the entire club for the donation to Port. Yes, we found ourselves with 8 kids quarantined to their rooms for 14 days. And these are teenagers who normally they don't spend hardly any time in their bedrooms. So we didn't have any of the equipment to kind of keep them so they were not bored in their rooms. So that donation was extremely helpful in getting some portable DVD players and some electronic games, which normally we don't keep on hand for them. So very appreciative. The kids and our staff, they were all very appreciative. So thank you very much.
I see Christy has a guest before we move on to other Rotary related announcements.
This is my daughter, Emily, and also Mike's daughter, Emily. And she is wondering how many mics are in Rotary, if we've ever counted how many mics there are.
Hi, Emily.
Hi. She's distance learning today, but she had a little bit of a break, so she came to say hi.
Very nice. Welcome to Rotary.
Well, we once had 5 Dans. You can't have too many Dans.
Jennifer was also very popular when I was born. There are a lot of Jennifers. All right, any other Rotary related announcements? I will get into our board meeting here in a little bit. I do not see Andy Rangan. on the call. But again, my favorite part of Rotary is always the Sergeant at Arms and our happy dollars. So unless I am missing Andy, if I am, can you speak up? If not, I think I'm just going to take over Andy's role for today in our Sergeant at Arms. So I would open it up for anybody who has a happy dollar or anybody who would like to share something on the screen. So with that, happy dollars.
Well, this is Dan again. I'm waited a long time, but I picked a date for retirement, which is May 25th. And I actually sent that information into our GM and that, so it is official. May 25th, my last day at Lakeland PBS. That would be ending my 24th year at Lakeland. So after that, it's biking and writing and travel and videography.
Well, that's pretty exciting. Congrats, Dan.
I have a happy dollar. Thank you to the people who were involved in, I think it's Bob Musilevich that plans the bell ringing. We had such a good time. I took my daughters out there, they're 8 and 11, and we were putting smiles on other people's faces and putting smiles on their faces. And by the time we left, it was, can we do this again next year? So we all had a lot of fun, and just a great way to spread the cheer, and the donations are needed. So thanks to everybody who helped set that up.
I have a happy dollar. Dwayne Lund was the superintendent of schools in Staples for forever. And the Staples Motley Community Foundation has an award called the Dwayne R. Lund Lifetime Achievement Award. And they awarded that to me Sunday night. So I'm very proud of that.
Congrats, Ray. That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a happy dollar.
Ray,
My son, Dana, my oldest, he is 24. He's a missionary. He is home for Christmas with his fiance, and he hasn't been home for 2 years. We haven't seen him in 2 years. And it was the first time since we adopted our daughter, Ayla Jean, that all 4 of my kids were together with us and will be for Christmas. So super excited about that.
Paula Persons here. I will share a screen. Mark and I try and walk every day. And this is a picture Mark took last week over at the All Vets Memorial. I thought he did a real nice job, so I thought I'd share it with the group today.
The other Dan here, my bride and I celebrate 59 years marriage tomorrow, 16th, Beethoven's birthday.
Happy anniversary.
This is John.
Go ahead, John.
And I have a happy dollar in that I am happy for Dan Hagsted's decision to retire. Retirement is a very good thing. So congratulations, Dan, and best wishes for you. And I know a guy like you will just thrive in retirement. So congratulations.
That's great, John. Thank you.
I also have a happy dollar. So Mark and I have 5 kids between us. So Mark has 3 and I have 2. And this weekend, Mark's oldest daughter, who works at a restaurant, who has been laid off because of the governor's executive order, decided to come up and spend the weekend with us because I think she's kind of going stir crazy. We had such a great time. I've had a really hard time getting into Christmas this year just because it's such a strange year. And she walked in the door and said, "Could I decorate the house for Christmas?" Mark and I quickly went and grabbed every single one of our Christmas totes and said, "Oh yes, please." And so she spent Thursday night decorating our entire house. We did some Christmas shopping. We did some wrapping of presents. And it's really nice when you have 5 kids between the 2 of you to really just spend some one-on-one time with with one of them. So I really, really enjoyed having Julia here.
Fantastic. Ken Toole here. So I did my stint of ringing bells for Rotary, which was then quickly followed up by another stint of ringing bells for Scouts. And for those of you who have seen the Echo, we also had an article featuring some of our Scouts who are ringing bells up in Pequot and in Pine River. And then the Echo also did a story on my Cub Scout pack in Pequot and how they were honoring some essential workers with some gift baskets. So great job to all my Scouts who are doing wonderful things this holiday season.
Any other happy dollars? All right, seeing none. Thank you for letting me take over happy dollars today. All right, I'm just going to go over our agenda and what we discussed today at Rotary. Couple of things that I thought may be of interest to the club. I'm going to ask some others to kind of jump in and talk a little bit about it. So we did have a discussion on Rotary dues. Jim, do you want to kind of recap that or summarize that?
Sure. So we set a budget for our meetings, face-to-face meetings and meals last July for our current fiscal year. And because of restrictions on meetings and that sort of thing, our budget for this line item isn't quite matching what we're using. So the board approved that for the next billing cycle, which will be January 1st, the dues will be reduced from $130 to $100. And that should keep us in line with where we want to be at the end of the fiscal year. Any questions I can entertain, but that's what we decided.
Thanks, Jim. Then Jeff Burks, who is not able to be at Rotary today, did give a kind of a recap and summary of our peach sales in 2020 and kind of looked at the last 8 years and what that has looked like for peach sales. And so at an upcoming meeting, maybe January or February, the board will be talking about future fundraisers. And part of that discussion will be the peach sales, just looking at what kind of fundraisers make some sense for the future. I know Dan, last time you mentioned the golf ball drop. So I think the Rotary board will be kind of looking at a bunch of different things. I had a brief discussion with the board. You know, we do have a position open on the board. And so anybody in Rotary, I would encourage you to take a look at our New Generations Youth Director. If there's anybody who would be interested in serving in that position, if you could please reach out to me, I'd be happy to give you more information of what that director position entails, but we do still have a vacancy on the board. And then we also talked about the possibility of a volunteer opportunity in the first quarter of 2021 calendar year, not Rotary year, to volunteer at the outreach program of Brainerd. So as I said at the beginning, when I took over as president, one of my goals really was to try to volunteer at least once a quarter, take a meeting. Instead of meeting at Rotary, we take that time to go volunteer. We did Coats for Kids. COVID certainly has had an impact on us doing this, but I am looking to do that volunteer opportunity sometime in January, February, or March of 2021. So I'll circle back with more information to the club. And then Mike Bjerknes, if you could share with the group what you shared at Rotary at the board meeting on International.
Sure. As I had mentioned prior, we did receive the matching district grant. So Rick Bricker is working on the acceptance pieces of that right now. And then Jim Roloffs, do you want to give a little update on where we are on the delivery of the butterfly?
Sure. actually, we just mailed the butterfly to Miami. We have a connection from Honduras who is in Miami right now. If you don't know, we made a portable ultrasound donation to a doctor in Honduras. And the problem is, of course, getting it there without theft or damage or whatever. So our solution was you find a contact, mail it to Miami. I got notice yesterday that it arrived in Miami, and the individual is leaving the 16th, 2 days to return to Honduras. So hopefully it'll be in Honduras in 2 days.
Thanks, Jim. The other thing I'll mention too, Jennifer, is we have a great connection with Dr. Marco that is receiving this, and he speaks fluent English and has said once he gets this up and going, he'd like to do a presentation for us on a Rotary, maybe a board meeting, something like that, that we could bring him on via Zoom and have him give an update of what this means to him and his colleagues at the university. So be kind of a fun, presentation at some point as we think about what we need to do down the road.
Sounds great. It doesn't look like, Dan, you have many gaps in your speakers, but that would be a wonderful presentation.
Yeah, I'll look into it. We've only got a couple openings between now and the end of the Rotary year. But Mike, can you send me information and we'll see if we can get it set up?
You bet. I'll send it over this afternoon, Dan. Thank you.
Great. And then John Forrest was going to speak a little bit about Rotary Riverside Park in our discussion at the board meeting today as well.
Yes, thank you. I was trying to head off some problems here by having Rotary approve a resolution. And this all comes from District 5580 grants. Now, we have received a number of grants from District 5580, including a $5,000 grant for our Centennial project, and a grant for this Honduras project too. And I also, we just received notice of a grant for some offsetting dollars for a sign that is being made for the park down there. This all comes from 5580, and thanks to Bill Ploppin for providing the information about that image grant. But in today's world, the burden on the financial institution for approving who is opening an account, and this is designed to head off money laundering in particular, and comes out of the Patriots Act. The burden for opening an account in financial institutions has gone up considerably. And Jim McBreen will be opening at least the account for the park, and I suspect for the Honduras funds too. But they need a certain amount of information to open these accounts. So I suggested to the board that they pass a resolution authorizing the opening of the account and specifying who the authorized signatures would be on the account, so that when Jim does go in to open the account, he will succeed at doing so without having to do a big paper chase. Jim, I also contacted a new accounts desk, and you will be receiving an information packet of an account opening application that kind of specifies what information you will need. So along with the signatures, information about who will be signing the account, and a corporate resolution, you'll have that already. So kind of head off some problems, hopefully, that you won't have them. That's all.
Great, and thank you. I think that gives you pretty much a quick recap of our board meeting today, and as our club meeting today, it's nice to kind of just recap that. So before we jump into our next order of business, which is actually going to be our Rotary Notaries, we have a special presentation today. We will be inducting a new member into Rotary. So with that, Rod.
Good afternoon. Looking forward to a new year. It's appropriate that we welcome a new member today. Those new members enhance the vitality of our club and extend the spirit of Rotary throughout the community and increase our usefulness and influence. Today, we're welcoming Chris McEachran into the Rotary Club of Brainerd. Chris, you've been elected to membership because your fellow members believe that you're a worthy representative of your calling and that you possess those qualities that exemplify the true spirit of Rotary in your public, private, social, and business lives. You're being welcomed not just into the Rotary Club of Brainerd, but you're also into a worldwide association. By virtue of your membership in Brainerd, you'll be welcomed at any Rotary Club in the world. With your membership, though, comes duties and obligations. You're expected to implement the four-way test into your life and profession, to attend club meetings regularly, to participate in club committees, and to use your talents and knowledge so the club can carry the principles of Rotary into the community. Rotarian Chris, on behalf of the Rotary Club of Brainerd, I now formally admit you into membership in this club. Your membership materials will be delivered to you. Normally, we have your sponsor pin them to your chest, a little tough in these conditions. So members, please welcome Chris into our membership, befriend him, reach out to him, and help him exemplify the principles of Rotary. Congratulations, Chris.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be part of it.
And Chris, I will get you your packet of information and pin and all that when we can finally get together as a group.
Right on.
Welcome, Chris. We certainly, I think we can all say we wish this wasn't virtual, but welcome to Rotary.
Thank you.
All right, so last week I had mentioned that with the club meetings, I'd really like to do Rotary Notaries. I would like to try to bring those back. So I had thought Ron Sanders was going to be with us today to do a Rotary Notary, but I do not see him joining us.
Had another meeting scheduled at the same time, so he was going to attempt to be on both, but obviously that didn't happen.
Oh, bummer. All right. Thank you, Paula. So our other Rotary Notary is Paula Chapoulis, who's going to tell us a little bit about herself.
So Jennifer asked me about an hour ago, so this is totally off the cuff. So my husband, Brad, and I moved here to the Brainerd Lakes area about 3.5 years ago. It'll be 4 years in May. He is city administrator for the city of Baxter, and we moved up here for that job for him. But the funny thing is 2 years prior to that, we were up here for a conference at Madden's or Grandview or something. And we were sitting at a restaurant talking about the area. And I grew up in Melrose Rec Center area, about an hour from here. I've got cousins that live here, been here a lot. And we said, wouldn't it be great to live here someday? And lo and behold, 2 years later, we were moving. So it's interesting what you put out into the universe and then what happened. So my background, so I did grow up in Stearns County and on a farm, and went to St. Ben, St. John's. And then after that, ended up working for a Fortune 500 company in Houston, Texas. And spent a few years in Texas and then moved back to the Twin Cities and went to work in economic development, actually, for mostly for the St. Paul Port Authority. And that's when I met my husband at a NDC Economic Development Finance professional certification course. Very romantic. And, on a Wednesday of that week, that whole week, we were spreading financials by hand and had lots. And Jennifer nods her head because I think you've been through it too. And at the end of Wednesday that week, everyone was heading to the bar because obviously drinks were needed. And I was going to go to the gym because I was a runner. I worked out a lot back then. And Brad said, where are you going? Aren't you going to join us for a drink? And I said, no, I haven't worked out in 2 days. And he said, you know what? You look great just the way you are. Why don't you come have a beer? And that's how that all started. So anyway, I ended up moving to Worthington where he was located. And we have 2 children. Gabby is 16 and Violet is 14. And they're both distance learning, which is really interesting. and I'm working from home for the most part. Professionally, so after I moved to Worthington, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. After my role at the Port Authority, I thought, well, what in the world am I going to do in Worthington? I ended up going back to school for massage therapy, and I became a massage therapist for about 5 years. I was nationally certified in different modalities, but one of them that was most interesting was prenatal labor and postnatal massage. So I have been in the room with mamas delivering babies and holding legs, massaging backs, whatever it might be. And that was really, really wonderful work. But in my second pregnancy, I ended up developing early onset arthritis and couldn't work anymore physically. So I had to give that up. And then I thought, well, what am I going to do now? And lo and behold, a company called Cabby came along. They design and sell women's clothing 2 seasons a year. So I ended up selling women's clothes for 8 years. You can maybe hear some entrepreneurship a little bit in my background. And then I was called into service by our pastor of our church and ended up doing pastoral administration for a church and school. So the church was about 1,500 families, very diverse church. And the school was K through 12 and a budget of about $1.3 million. And boy, were my eyes opened in working as an administrator for a church. It was probably the most difficult job and the most rewarding job I've ever had. That job was 24/7. And during that job, I experienced extreme burnout. As you can imagine, I was at every event, and you know, churches have a lot of events, and so do schools. How I left that job is we ended up moving here, and I couldn't do that job anymore. And so that church had started a mission of a free clinic for people without healthcare insurance. I had been on the board. I had been a volunteer since 2011. And we had been looking for an executive director. And so they asked if I would consider it and work remotely. So that's what I did for the first couple of years being up in this area. And again, I learned a ton about the healthcare industry, about serving the most vulnerable population. And really believed in my heart of hearts that they needed an executive director that was local, that was in Worthington. And so I left that position after I was offered a position with a contract with the chamber here. What you don't know in between there is I went back to school to get certified as a leadership coach. I've been involved in leadership development since the mid-90s in multiple different ways. And I've coached without that certification and training and felt I really wanted additional training. So I did that. In the meantime, started a business, then was offered the contract with the chamber. So I do that currently. I'm director of the Blue Ox Business Academy, and I also have one-on-one coaching clients who are either new leaders or seasoned leaders. My seasoned leaders are those typically that are in burnout. And just recently, I started a 30-day journey called Breaking Through Burnout on my Facebook business page, because I'm seeing a lot of stress in business owners and leaders right now. So that brings us up. I think that covers a lot. My Rotary background, I started in Rotaract in the Twin Cities in 1995 or 96, I think. I actually helped form the Twin Cities Rotaract, which is still going today. Part of that was going to Mexico City for Interact, which is a worldwide Rotaract conference. So I hung out with 18 to 30-year-olds. I was like 5 or 6 at the time. for 8 days in Mexico City. And I think I slept about 8 hours that whole week. So it was a ton of fun. We met the international president at the time. And we also bid for that conference to come to Minneapolis. And unfortunately, we lost out to Rio de Janeiro. We couldn't compete with the beach photos and the bikini clad women, and, you know, Mississippi River just doesn't compete with that, unfortunately. But that was a wonderful experience. And then I joined Rotary. I was part of the North St. Paul Maplewood Oakdale Rotary Club, and then was invited to join the Ambassadorial Scholarship Committee of the multi-districts that cover the Twin Cities and Minnesota and Western Wisconsin, or Southern Minnesota and Western Wisconsin. And then I also joined the Youth Exchange Committee. I was a district youth exchange officer for Dominican Republic, Spain, and there's another country, shoot, Spain, or maybe it was just Spain and Dominican Republic. Anyway, so I did that for a number of years and loved that work. So I worked on the district level with Youth Exchange. And that brings us up to today. So joined Rotary as soon as I moved here. And yeah, so there's 3 interesting facts I'm going to share with you. One is my great grandmother was a bootlegger, and Buford and I have relatives or ancestors who probably worked together. And in fact, if you've ever read Minnesota 13, they're all mentioned in there together. So he and I have had conversations about that. Another interesting fact for me is I've kissed the Stanley Cup. That's interesting, and met the handler, and that's a whole very interesting job. And then I've lived in Europe twice. I was an exchange student in Germany, and then I studied in London in college. So that is me. And yeah, hobbies, I love to quilt, read, walk my husky. Yeah, that's about it. So that's me in a nutshell.
So a couple of things. First of all, thank you, Paula, on such incredibly short notice. I really appreciate it. Number one, I'm going to say, yes, I can see why you needed a drink after the NDC training, and seems very fitting that that's where you and Brad met. But secondly, Mark and I, when the world was normal, would play trivia at Jack Pine Brewery with Brad and Paula Chapoulas. And if you want a good team member, Paula brings a lot of art and history and all of those things. And so, yeah, and a wonderful teammate
I miss that. And
so do I.
Liberal arts education.
Yeah. Does anybody have questions of Paula? Well, I have loved hearing your journey. And so I am really thrilled that you shared your journey with Rotarians. Again, was hoping to have 2 back-to-back. Still looking to see if Ron happened to have jumped on, but I do not see him. So with that, I'm actually probably going to give you back 15 minutes of your time here at Rotary. I will be reaching out sooner this time rather than later. Our next club meeting, I'm also going to ask 2 Rotarians to give Rotary Notaries. I think it's a great time to, when we don't have a presentation, not only to give a club update, but also to hear from our fellow Rotarians. So is there anything else to come before Rotary? Well, thank you and enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you on Tuesday.